Our next guest has unique insight into the tensions between the White House and higher education. Joining us right now, Squawk Box is longtime CEO and now chairman of Greenhill Co. He resigned as board chair at UPenn following a so-called donor revolt over concerns of on-campus hate in the university response. And he's written about his experience at UPenn and about his 4 decades in finance. And his new book, it is out today, is called Surviving Wall Street, A Tale of Triumph, Tragedy, and Timing. And who would have ever thought, after close to 40, 50 years in the business, that your role on the board at the university would be the thing that people talk about?
So true. I mean, it's remarkable that, people join those boards thinking it's going to be fun, it's going to be interesting, they're going to meet, interesting people. It's kind of a networking thing. They're going to feel good about the place they give money to. And most people don't enter those things thinking that there may come a crisis and it may get very contentious and very difficult.
Of all of the crises and transactions that you worked on and sort of complicated boardrooms, is that the top?
I would say that is the top because it really had national issues at stake. I mean, I believe then, and I think clearly it's played out now, that what was at stake was far more than free speech and anti-Semitism. I mean, it was clear to me in the very, very early days that, what has now played out, what is now playing out about just the role of elite higher education in America, how it's financed, how it chooses students, how it hires faculty, et cetera, was all at play.
But you were under the gun in large part because you were very supportive of the prior head of the university at a time when there were a lot of people, including people like Mark Rowan, who was coming on our set saying, this is a problem. And in fact, I think he was calling you behind the scenes.
Oh, yes, he was. And we met during that time as well. But yes, I was supportive of her. I mean, look, there were people who talked, and, he was one of them, who talked about, 10 or 20 years of really changing culture at Penn, deterioration of Penn, too woke, too DEI, et cetera. I mean, look, Liz McGill was there for one of those 10 or 20 years. You have very little influence in that period of time. So, look, she got caught in the crossfire and really a culture war that really, erupted out of nowhere at Penn, out of a board that had been incredibly harmonious for the nearly 20 years I was on that board.
What's the solution? I mean, where is it fixable? Are these institutions going to get slashed? And I know we have other stuff to talk about in the book, but
I think it is. Look, the reality is, I think a lot of misconceptions really developed in that period. That, one misconception is that most students are sort of, social activists and woke and so on. I mean, less than 1% of students at Penn ever appeared at a protest in relation to Gaza. Very, very small group of people. Most students are majoring in things like, economics and finance and engineering and other fields that are really quite technical. I mean, they're not even taking courses.
Those are the ones the faculty didn't get to, Scott. What about the faculty?
Well, but the faculty are teaching those courses. I mean, if you look at, Google the top 10 majors at Penn, obviously Wharton's very influential there, but top 10 majors at Harvard, I mean, it's mostly things that sound like they're going to get you a great job, which is what they are. The number of students taking history, politics, English, et cetera, it's really declined. So these schools are, largely meritocracies, and they are trying to train students, and I think they do that very well, for jobs in important positions in America.
You made the observation just moments ago that you think this is a lot more or is a bigger issue than DEI or anti-Semitism. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think I viewed it early on that it was more than about free speech and anti-Semitism, that it really was about the issue of so-called woke or DEI gone too far, however you want to phrase that. I mean, there clearly was a backlash against that. I don't really think an appropriate one. I mean, I've talked about how when I was at Penn, a freshman, I met my freshman resident advisor last night at an event. I hadn't seen her in decades. There were 25 students on my floor. Every single one was white. No black, no Latino, no Indian, Chinese, Korean. I mean, Penn was a pretty white place, and so they made some efforts to try to create a more diverse
So what do you make
body.
then of what this administration is doing as it relates to questions about not-for-profit status of universities, Harvard in particular, rolling back grants to universities, Harvard in particular, but you could put Columbia on that list as well, around schools that they don't think are doing the job?
Look, I'm very much against what the administration is doing to those schools. I mean, I view a big part of why America is sort of on top of the world economically and leading in almost every industry sector is we have these great universities. And even my friends from around the world all want to send their kids to America's elite universities. So I would not want to see that system get undermined. And look, the tax-exempt status is really the nuclear weapon. I mean, if you have to start paying property tax and your donors can't get tax deductions, I mean, I think it's sort of game over. Right. But even things like changing research funding for all the medical research and so on, you know, a bigger endowment tax, things like that are very, very high risk for these universities.
How much do you think this is an effort, you know, the president was down in Alabama. How much do you think this is an effort to sort of shift sort of the significance or influence of certain schools over other schools?
There's probably some, you know, some element of that here, but I think those schools are going to get hurt as well. I mean, those schools get a lot of research dollars for various types of medical research as well. So it's not just that, you know, an Ivy League thing. I think it's a great risk for these schools, and I think these schools are part of what has made America really pull away from the rest of the world over the last generation.
Let me ask you a different question, talking about generation. I think I met you close to 25 years ago. The banking business in Wall Street was a very different place.
Yes.
What do you think it's like today? I mean, you live it today, but what do you think Wall Street even is 5 or 10 years from now? We're going to talk to Paul Tudor Jones in a little bit, and I know one of the things he wants to talk about is AI. And I think to myself, the role that bankers played in America and corporate America 25 years ago, the sort of consigliere to the CEO, there was real influence. And I think today it's a very different thing. And I'm curious what you...
I would very much agree with that. Look, if you, the founder of my firm, Bob Greenhill, I was the CEO of the firm for many, many years.
Great golfer, by the way, Jim.
Bob was a great golfer.
I remember Bob used to come on all the time.
Bob loved golf and still plays golf, by the way. Look, when he founded the M&A department at Morgan Stanley, he had 3 people. He was asked, hey, Bob, maybe we can sell people advice on M&A deals. So he was chosen 4 people. You know, even 25 years ago, it was very different. I mean, today, what's really evolved, it's kind of remarkable, it's kind of a huge transaction ecosystem, right? Lawyers, bankers, by the thousands, doing trillions of dollars of deals a year. It's a little more mechanical than it once was. It's a little more processing-oriented than it once was. But it certainly is high volume. You know, whether it continues to be that way, I don't know. It feels like that's just part of our economy right now, is this churning.
And what about people going into the business itself, which is to say, if you were a brilliant kid 25 years ago, Wall Street was actually a place you wanted to go.
Yes.
Today, you may want to go somewhere else. Tech, I don't know. What do you think's happening just to the culture of it all?
I still feel, look, part of why I wrote my book, I think for younger people trying to chart a career in the future, I still think it's a great place to start. I think Wall Street gives you a broad understanding of how value is created, how companies make decisions, you know, how to structure transactions, and I think it's great training. Many of those kids, after 2 years as an analyst, go on to do something completely different, and that's great.